Welcome back. Good morning, Austin. Our daily live show from the running event TRE. We are presented by BOA Technologies. A big thank you to BOA for their support here this week. And we are joined by Michael Brandt, founder and CEO of HVMN, the makers of Ketone IQ. We're going to start with a quick cheers here, Michael.
Let's do it. Good to be here, Dylan.
We'll get ketoned up and have a good convo here. Cheers, buddy. Okay. Diving into it.
What do we just drink?
Yeah, right. Maybe start there. I mean, obviously, I feel like I tried the product for the first time in like 2018 with the V1. We'll talk about that in a sec, but maybe just give people the condensed story of, the founding insight and the journey you guys have been on building the company.
What we just drank is a pure ketone, and it's an area I've been working on for the last 5+ years. Prior to that, I studied computer science at Stanford, lived in the Bay Area for a decade, and got really into biohacking, endurance sports. How do you improve your physical performance as an athlete? How do you improve your health span? And it's a really exciting time to do that because there's so many ways to objectively measure it, where you can track your heart rate variability, your sleep, your blood glucose levels, your blood ketone levels, where a decade ago that stuff was starting to first emerge. It was very much biohacking, and now it's commonplace, right? There's 20 million Americans that have some kind of like wearable, even more if you count Apple Watches and just the broader like quantified self. So that space is really exciting. Inside of that space, I was looking for, okay, what's like the interesting biggest lever that you could pull? Mm-hmm. And saw that inside of metabolism, your body makes something called ketones. Yeah. And your brain loves these ketones. And you need these ketones, especially when you're low blood sugar. Your body makes ketones from fat. And then ketones themselves have these really great properties. A lot of people feel really good. They feel runner's high when they're running a lot and their ketone levels are up. When people are fasting, their body starts making a lot of ketones. They feel really good. So I saw what was going on. I asked the dumb/smart question of, hey, if ketones feel so good, like, why can't you go to the store and just buy some ketones? Why do I have to fast for 3 days? Do I have to eat a strict low carb diet in order to get my ketones up? If what I'm deriving this benefit from is the feeling of fueling my brain with ketones, why can't I just go drink a shot of ketones? And then in 2019, I got a $6 million contract. My co-founder and I got a contract with the Department of Defense. They were really interested in exogenous ketones. Like ketones, like exogenous meaning like coming from outside your body.
For applications, probably on the battlefield or something like that. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Physically, cognitively demanding missions. There's 7 different subtasks to this contract. Largest ever study done on exogenous ketones, looking at it in a lot of different stress tests. Hypoxia, low oxygen environments, different types of physical and mental stress, and then seeing how operators respond with and without ketones. So robust battery of different types of testing. And it was super exciting. The product going into that, we had what you tried back in 2018 was like $35 a shot ketone. And over the time with the DoD, besides seeing really interesting results on how exogenous ketones can help with cognitive efficiency in different scenarios. Also internally worked on our supply chain formulation and got the Ketone IQ down to $4.95 a shot. We're in every Equinox in America, and we're in Sprouts. Like, we're actually out there like making good on this idea that we had 5+ years ago about universally accessible ketones. Like, what if ketones could be as available as electrolytes or protein?
So how is it made? Like, how is it manufactured? Because one of the things that I find remarkable is that in sort of the sports nutrition category, there's a ton of competition, say with like footwear and apparel and stuff, but you guys have sort of really pioneered this new product. And at least at this point, it seems to me like there's no competition, it seems like, and therefore you guys seem to really be sort of creating an important product in a unique and standalone market.
It's exciting. I read there's a book I love called First in Thirst. It's the Gatorade story on how they got started in 1965 with the Florida Gators in the swamp. Everyone just sweating buckets, and they're like, "Hey, look! If you sprinkle some salt electrolytes on it," and it tasted terrible. Apparently, it's like, and the first early versions were like in cans, and like it like corroded the cans. Like Gatorade was itself, if we can imagine, its own like crazy startup where like they were the only ones like so counterintuitive, putting salt into water. Like no one knew what was going on. The very early swashbuckling days there, I obviously very inspired by that.
Yeah.
There's first tracks in the snow to anything that you're doing, like figuring something out for the first time. To me, what's exciting about it is there's a fundamental truth to it where I think a lot of food trends, I don't know what they do. I don't know exactly what like an acai berry does. Like I don't know what biomarker it moves. Whereas like, I mean, electrolytes an interesting example where once Pandora's box was opened on electrolytes, there's no going back.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, your body retains water better when you have it in combination with some salts.
Yeah.
If Gatorade didn't exist, that would still be true in the like universe. Like that's just like a truth. Someone else there would have been some Powerade or this or like, this by now we have dozens of electrolyte brands. There's a fundamental truth to it. Like Gatorade didn't make that true. They kind of like discovered it and created a lot of value around it. And I see the same thing with ketones where like, I'm not making it true or not true. It's just like, it's a fundamental metabolite that your body responds really well to. And we're pushing as aggressively as possible to to deliver ketones as affordably, as palatably, as universally as possible.
Okay, so talk about that because I tried the V1 product, I think back in 2018 or 2019 or something like that. You said that it was much more expensive. It also didn't taste quite as good. And I think in the interim between V1 and V2, the product that we have next to us here, I'm sure there was a lot of painful moments trying to figure out how to commercialize this thing because it is brand new. It is a pioneering product. Any stories or insights from that messy middle phase between V1 and V2?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the big differences is that it's fully fermented. So completely sustainable process now. Early days, just to get something going, it was petrochemical based. So you can make a lot of things from petroleum, like long chains of carbons. If people remember their high school chemistry a little bit, like you can make like it's a very robust molecule. There's a reason that we're like pulling so much petroleum out of the earth at a time. It's like very robust. You can make all sorts of things with it. But it's ultimately very expensive. It tasted weird and had it just wasn't as sustainable. So what we rotated to is fully sustainable, meaning what you do is you take specialized type of bacteria. It's actually super cool, like cutting edge biofermentation. Like you take a specialized type of bacteria where you feed it something really you feed it plant stock, basically like sugar, and you have these little like yeast molecules that like eat the sugar and then they poop out your target molecule. This is a technical term. You can use so this is biofermentation. This can be used to make a lot of different types of molecules. We figured out how to do it for specifically our ketone dial, and so that was one of the big ways that we got efficiencies of scale on production.
And that's what drives the price down.
Yeah. And then early days we had so right now Ketone IQ is a pure ketone dial. And what we had in the early days was an ester that was half ketone dial and half ketone acid, which we thought was really cool at the time because it was half the exact same dial and half acid. It was very expensive. And what we found out, the idea was like with acid is that acid is very quick at spiking your blood ketone levels versus dial is more of a longer curve. And we thought it was smart to like sterify them together. So you have some fast stuff, some slow stuff. It was basically overly engineered and like didn't do what we wanted to do that well. Like the fast spike was counterproductive. But what the dial itself has this curve to it that works better for endurance. And so we were paying more money for like a less performant type of ketone. And so we just pared it down and said, okay, let's do just pure dial. And that's another way that we were able to get the cost down.
So you just mentioned endurance, and it strikes me that we haven't really talked about the product's application explicitly. Obviously, it is beneficial for endurance exercise. You and I both participate in a lot of endurance sport competitions. So I'd love to hear you say a few words about that, but also about sort of like the lifestyle application, because in our house, Harmony and I, my wife, we use the product every day and use it for work and for focus and for just general day-to-day energy, in addition to the benefits from training. So maybe anything you want to say about both applications, I'm sure the listeners would love to hear.
Yeah, ketones are a high performance energy where the energy is coming from ketones, not coming from sugar, not coming from caffeine. That ketones themselves are this form of energy, and your brain in particular really likes ketones. That your neurons in your brain, when they're creating ATP, they can do that from sugar, glucose molecules. They can do it from ketones, and they really like ketones. The ketones just seem to feel really good. They don't overstimulate you to where you kind of feel like a sugar rush and a crash, or like caffeine kind of can get you overly jittery, and then you don't feel great. Your brain seems to really like ketones, and so in an endurance context, they're really beneficial because you can stack them on top of these other things. You can have ketones and carbohydrates, and caffeine. It's another form of fuel that goes through another pathway that, especially when you're doing endurance stuff, ultra endurance stuff, you kind of max out a certain pathway. So like the most modern carbohydrate gels, what they'll do, and you read the back or read the website of what they're trying to do, is like have different types of carbohydrate in there. So they'll have like maltodextrin, and
so they're using multiple pathways.
Exactly. Yeah. Within carbohydrates, they're parallelizing different types. Sometimes they'll have BCAAs in there, which are like a broken down form of protein that your body can convert into ATP. So you're trying to like parallelize out. You're trying to get like multiple lanes going on the expressway, so to speak. And then ketones are just this own other
lane. It's the HOV lane.
It's the HOV lane. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Ketones are the HOV lane. So some people have Ketone IQ, and they just stack it. They'll pour it in their water bottle with their carbohydrate mix. Some people go for a more like low carbohydrate approach, and they just are doing like some of the ultra endurance guys will do like super low carb, because the thesis there is that your body does really well on just like its fat ketone system. Yep. And so what's cool about exogenous ketones, what's cool about Ketone IQ is that it's like portable across. Like if you want to be low carb, it's cool. If you don't want to be low carb, it's just like stacking fuel on top of what you're already doing. Yeah. And in endurance context, this is what we saw with the DOD. It's what we've seen with elite athletes in general. It extends, especially your ability to feel mentally sharp after a long effort. Mm-hmm. One of the studies we did with special forces was like rucking, so wearing weights, climbing at altitude, and you're at altitude as well. So like there's vert and you're at altitude, so you're getting exhausted, you're low oxygen, and then you're doing like target practice afterwards. And that people did significantly better on those target practice after that long effort when they had ketones. So basically just like more central governor, like more ability for your brain to control what's going on and respond to your environment, which then affects everything else. Like just the way the central governor works. Like if you
fascinating. I have a personal hypothesis that the product makes me a little bit mentally tougher. Like I'm more capable of pushing to the next level in a workout, or not skipping the final repetition or something like that. Maybe that's maybe a reflection of what you're talking about.
Yeah. Where it's true that all the different muscles in your body can use ketones, but it's less that like your quad is using it, and more that your brain has more like resilience. Like it's more that your brain is using it, and then you're able to like tell your legs to shut up.
Yeah. Okay.
That's
interesting.
How I think about it.
So talk about the entrepreneurial journey a little bit too, because like to me, just as an outside observer, it feels like the brand is really blowing up, and I'm sure that's exciting, but also comes with a lot of challenges. And I know it's not been an overnight success story. Anything you want to say about just like this last 5 or 6 years trying to build the company, and any challenges that have come along the way?
Yeah, I love that question. And to me, it so parallelizes progress with running and endurance sports, where you keep showing up and you don't know. You know how sometimes you just go out there and you're like, you have a breakthrough. Yeah. But then sometimes you go out there and you're just like pounding the same thing, and like you're like slower weirdly. It's like, oh, I've been working harder, I'm slower. Like entrepreneurship very much the same way. And the only thing you're really in control of is showing up every single day. Like no single day makes you a hero or not a hero. Like it's what gets those heroic results is repeatedly showing up. Entrepreneurship very much the same way. I can say, for us that I started it very much in like a place of curiosity and like science fair project mode for a number of years, being like working with DoD operators, having like this core technology that was really interesting, but it wasn't really like a big business. It was more this like curiosity. And you had like Peter Attia and Tim Ferriss, and like you had different health, wellness, biohacker type people like talking about it. And we got it to like a bigger scale than it had been, but it was still like this very small niche thing, but it was interesting. And so I think for a number of years, it was just personally fueled off of this like vision, or we'd get like a press write up in like Outside Magazine. They'd be, oh, this is interesting curiosity. What could ketones be? Like we'd get different pickups, or like Conor McGregor started using it because he was trying to get better stamina for combat sports. And I think just like listening to those little signals along the way, and then eventually cracking like, okay, like this really needs to like, to be a scalable business, this needs to be like just more universally accessible, available. And yeah, it's one of those things like, it's still day one. We're still just getting started. But you know, there's certain moments where things break through, where like you're working just as hard every single day, but like on one of those days, like, you know, oh, this is the day that we launched it and it's half the price of what it used to be, or this is the day that we like got it into grocery stores nationwide. And it's like, you're working just as hard today as you were yesterday, but like some days the results just like heap on, and other days it's silence. And
sometimes the success makes things harder too. Like the reward for hard work is more hard work. I've heard somebody say recently.
It's a cake eating contest where the reward is more cake. But isn't running the same way?
Well, I was just going to say, so I mean, you're obviously also an endurance athlete yourself. So maybe tell the viewers and listeners sort of like what you've been, you know, pursuing in that respect, what your goals are, and also like how the two parts of your personality fit together as an entrepreneur and as an athlete.
I'm a runner, marathoner. I'm really obsessed with the marathon. I'm a 240 marathoner, and I think I can I can make a big dent in that as well. I've done some other longer stuff, shorter stuff, some triathlon stuff. I really like the marathon. I don't know what it is. I think there's something about it that's just like, it's kind of like, it's always the same. It's always at 26.2. Like a lot of people do a marathon in their life. I think I have unfinished business with the marathon. I'm still wrestling with it. And I want to keep cracking at it. And then like the whole broader sport is fun. I think it's like, I hope I have a long running career out ahead of me, but I'm really into the marathon right now.
It's probably like the hacking part of it, right? Because it is so, at this point, it becomes such a science experiment of like how you can optimize within that 26.2 window to just shave seconds off the 240 mark, right?
Exactly.
Whereas in 100-mile mountain races, which is sort of like my cup of tea, it's more about like the sentimental, like, I don't know, less measurable parts of performance.
And each one is a little different.
Totally. Yeah.
And there's more random variables versus like, I don't know, if you run like CIM or Chicago, or like everyone knows like the flat, fast courses, like it's a unit, and it's a pretty like consistent unit. That's what you're going for. Like we're going to run Houston in January, and it's like, okay, it should, like, knock on wood, it should be like a nice day out. It's like, which has its own pluses and minuses, because you could say, oh, that's very boring. It's like, okay, 26.2 on like flat asphalt, whatever. But for me, I like that it's a unit. It's like, I know it, and I'm just keeping on going at it different ways and like shaving those seconds off. And then yeah, we'll see from there. Like, cause I don't know, I paced my friend Don at Ketone 250 last year.
Don Reichelt?
Yeah.
Shout out
Don. And like, that was a lot of fun. Like, I would love to do that. Like everything is fun. I think there's an abundance of fun, and I have my own kind of obsession around the marathon, but that doesn't mean like not expressing any kind of, it's all great.
Yeah, of course. So I guess maybe as we wind down, talk a little bit about what you're doing here at TRE. Why is it important for HVMN, Ketone IQ to be here at the trade show? What are you doing interfacing with partners and retailers? What brings you to Austin? It's
good to meet everyone. I think everyone's here. Ken Rideout's here. Des Linden's here. Like, there's a lot of great people here. A lot of other founders, entrepreneurs. It's great to be here doing this. There's a lot of just connections. I think the running community is awesome, and I love these moments. These like tentpole moments where people all come together. Running is interesting because so much of it is like, it's such a solitary sport, but then also it's really fun to get together with all the other crazies. Like
Yeah.
runners are crazy. I love runners. It's like this sport is almost defined by this obsession over pain and just going to that dark place repeatedly. And it's insane. But then runners are also some of the most like cheery, happy-go-lucky. It's this duality of a personality. And then you get like 5,000 of them together all at once. It's just fun.
It's just good times.
Good times. Yeah.
Well, speaking of getting together, I think we're going to dinner tonight with the HVMN team. And this is our first time meeting each other, but you guys have been great supporters of us at Freetrail and everything that we do. So we're massively appreciative of what you do and what you bring to the running community and specifically your support of what we do also. So thanks for coming on the show.
Appreciate you guys.
Thanks.